I don't believe that if this video is showing up on your feed, it's the coincidence. Because there is no coincidence with God. And I don't believe in the coincidence as well. When I lost everything, God handed me a pain. It took me years to understand what that sentence really meant. You see, I didn't grow up thinking I could ever fall apart. I was the strong one, the girl who smiled on hard days, who chickened on others before checking on herself, the one who always say yes, always figure it out, always keep going. But the truth is, even the strongest ones have limits, and I didn't know I had reached mine until I collapsed under the weight of everything I thought I could handle. So, if you are watching this, maybe you are carrying more than you admit. Maybe you are the one people lean on, but secretly, you don't know how much longer you can hold it together. Maybe this video isn't a coincidence. Maybe this is the thing God's using to remind you. You don't have to do this alone. Because I'm here for you. A few years ago, I lost everything I thought I had built with my first business. I mean, like something I poured my soul into collapsed almost overnight. It was a startup I ran with someone I trusted deeply, the co-founder. We were close. We felt like we're family. We shared meals, made plans, celebrate little wins. And then the funding disappeared, and so did she. No call, no explanation, no warnings, just gone. I was left with bills, confusions, legal chaos, and silence. And just when I thought I couldn't get worse, my ex messaged me. He said he needed help, just a little loan. Things were tough. And me? I still wanted to believe in people. I still wanted to be kind. So I said yes. And a week later, I found out he was married and he spent that money for his wife, not struggling, not desperate, just using me. That broke something in me I didn't know was still breakable. I wasn't just betrayed. I felt foolish, stupid for trusting, ashamed that I still wanted to believe that people were good. So you want to know what's worse than heartbreak? Shame. Shame is silent. It makes you smile in front of your friends while dying inside. It makes you avoid calls because you don't want to admit you've been played. It makes you scroll endlessly, not because you are interested, but because you would rather feel numb than feel anything real. I started forgetting simple things like why I walked into the room or what joy felt like. I wasn't crying on the floor. I was just slowly shutting down. I looked fine. I walked. I answered emails. I even posted those cute little healing quotes with flowers and rainbows on my Facebook fan page. But at night, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't pray. I couldn't even taste food anymore. That's when I realized depression isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's invisible. It looks like achievement. It sounds like I'm just tired. It hides behind perfectionism, sarcasm, busy schedule, and I've got it handled. But inside, you are screaming, and no one hears that. One night, I was too tired to scroll, too sad to cry, too empty to explain anything to anyone. So I grabbed a notebook and just randomly. It was one of those cheap ones with a bent cover, a stuff in a drawer. And I wrote these words, "This really hurts." That's it. Not a story, not a journal entry, not a prayer, just truth. And for the first time in weeks, I excelled. I didn't realize then, but that was the beginning. I kept writing. I didn't think about grammar. I didn't care how it sounded. I wasn't trying to be wise or poetic or even hopeful. I was splitting onto the page. Pain I hadn't admitted. Fears I had buried. Anger I didn't feel allowed to say out loud. That page soaked it all up. And the next day I wrote again. Same notebook, same pain, different kind of ache. I wrote about feeling abandoned by people who promised they could never leave. I wrote about wanting to disappear. I wrote about how hard it was to wake up every morning, and I pretend I still believe life had a point. That process became a ritual. Every night, 10 minutes, sometimes longer. I didn't always write new things. Sometimes I repeated the same sentence over and over like a desperate prayer. And like something like, God, I don't know how to keep going. God, I don't know how to keep going. God, I don't know how to keep going. That's it. And sometimes without warning, something shifted. Like one night, I found myself writing something like this. But I'm still here. And maybe that's enough for today. Something like this. I call this practice bleed and bless. You bleed your truth onto the page. Then you bless it by not judging it, by letting it live in ink instead of rot inside of you. If it doesn't fix things, but it free things. One night, somewhere on page 3 or page 4, I wrote something that made me pause. It didn't sound like me. It sounded wiser, softer, not broken. And I used to write something like that. When you write from the heart, God hears you, and so do the people meant to find you. I just stare at it because maybe I wasn't just writing to survive. Maybe I was writing my way back to life. That night, when I wrote, God hears you, something cracked open. I started wondering, what if writing is a kind of prayer? What if it's not about sounding holy or using the right words, but just showing up? What if God doesn't need fancy language, just honesty? So I kept writing even all the nights I didn't want to, even when I had nothing new to say. Sometimes I wrote one sentence, sometimes 5 pages, sometimes just a list of things I wish I could say out loud. Like, I'm tired of being the strong one, God. I miss the version of me who used to love without guilt. I feel like a burden even when no one say it. I want to believe in love again, but I'm scared. I want to come home to myself. Yeah, and the more I wrote, the more I realized something no one had told me. God doesn't just speak through miracles. Sometimes He speaks through your own hand, through your own voice, the one you've been taught to silence, the one you buried under responsibility, survival, and performance. He doesn't shout from a distance. He whispers through your pen. One night, after journaling, I left my notebook on the table. The next morning, I walked past it and noticed one line I would written the night before. It said, maybe healing doesn't feel good. Maybe it just feels real. That sentence stuck with me all day. Because I used to think healing meant joy, hope, freedom, and sometimes, yes, it does. But sometimes healing looks like crying in your car because you finally admitted the truth. Sometimes it looks like deleting a number you've memorized for years, or choosing to go to bed early instead of proving a point in a fight. Sometimes it's just making tea and not punishing yourself for not being productive. That's healing too. And as weeks passed, I noticed something strange. I wasn't magically happy, but I also wasn't numb anymore. I still had bad days, but now I had a place to put those days in words instead of in silence. The page became a mirror. It didn't always show me what I wanted to see, but it always showed me what was true. And I think that was real healing is. Not always feeling better, but learning how to feel at all. There's something sacred about writing without a filter. It's not performative, it's not curated, it's not for views or likes or approval. It's just for you and maybe for God. Because there's something else I've come to believe. You don't have to find the perfect prayer. You just have to find the courage to speak. And sometimes the page will listen when no one else will. People started noticing change in me, not overnight, but gradually. So I didn't explain anything, I didn't need to, but I was softer, quieter, more grounded, less reactive. Someone once told me, "You seem lighter, like something let go of you." And I smiled and thought, no, I let go of something. The truth is, I didn't just write to survive, I wrote to reconnect with myself, with my voice, with my creator, with the part of me that still hope even when everything hurt. I began to see patterns. Things I thought were random thoughts were actually deep rooted beliefs. Things like, I'm only lovable when I'm useful, like rest equals laziness. If I am vulnerable, people will leave. Seeing those beliefs in writing helped me name them. And when I could name them, I could change them. Because you can heal what you refuse to look at, and writing makes you look. I wish someone had told me sooner this thing. You don't need a therapist to begin, you just need a notebook and the guts to be honest. Healing doesn't require perfect words, it just needs real ones. And so now, years later, this is what I've learned. If you feel lost, write. If you feel broken, write. If you are angry at God, ashamed of yourself, tired of pretending, write. Not for the internet, not for a book deal, not to become someone, but to remember who you already are. I want to leave you with a practice like this. Something small. Grab a pen, grab a notebook tonight, or open the Notes app on your iPhone. Set a 10-minute timer and write exactly what you were too afraid to say out loud. Then, at the very bottom, write this line. And even now, I am worthy of love. Let that sentence live there, even if you don't believe yet. Especially if you don't believe it yet, let it sit on the page until one day you will realize that you don't need to earn rest. You don't need to prove you are enough. You already are. God didn't hand me a solution correctly. He handed me a pen. And through that pen, I found my voice. I found my story. I found myself again. So maybe this video is your sign. And not to fix everything, not to have the answers, just to begin. When I lost everything, God handed me a pen. And that pen, it was the beginning of everything I never knew I needed. So, this is the small thing that I want to tell you. If this spoke to you, drop one line in the comments. Not your best lie, not your deepest insight, just your truth. Someone out there might need your sentence more than you know. And if you want more moments like this, you know where to find me, right?